It's Norm from Tested, and for my third year, I'm back at WonderFest here in Louisville with Jason Eaton.
Hey,
Jason!
how you been?
So good to see you.
You too.
One of the ringmasters here, corralling incredible model makers, showing off their projects as well as your own projects.
Yes.
Okay.
Very exciting.
So last year we saw not only some of your completed works, but some of your works in progress. And the Rebel Transport, which you showed me, was like 30% done. You had started working out some of the incredible paneling.
Yeah.
You got it done.
It's all I feel like it's all I worked on from the last time we spoke until now, but it's done. Yeah.
All right. Big tuna.
Big tuna. Yeah.
Tell me about the process.
Okay, so it all starts with reference. It all starts with the community of people that band together and sort of look at photographs and ID things. That was going on up until literally last month with this little trench area, which is incredibly complicated. And I entered into this model thinking I'm going to get like 75 to 85% of the way there, IDing everything, and I'm going to have to make some stuff up. We're like 97, 98%. It was shocking how into the groove my little team of guys got. And I'm very proud that I was IDing little things along the way because I'm just steeped in these. I mean, there's like maybe 15 or 20 core kits that get used again and again. And when that's all you're touching for a while, you start finally memorizing sprues, which is terrifying. But yeah, so we ID'd things and I just started building. And I realized about 3 or 4 weeks into the process, I need to start painting as I go because it gets so complicated with all those little boxes underneath that you can get lost. Right. So that was sort of like breadcrumbs in the forest. I'm like, I'll put the red one there. Now I know the red one's there because a lot of them are sort of similar looking. And it was also sort of a trick because they build it and then it changes a little, and it's sort of a fragile model by its design, I guess. And things clearly had fallen off and been glued back on. And so it's like pre-production photograph is different from how it looked right after filming, how it looked when they photographed it for like promotional stuff. And then it's wildly different 40 years later because so much has fallen off and it's been glued back on or it's just missing. So my aim was those few photos from like 1979 that show like the underside, and there's about 8 or 9 containers that are just AWOL on the model now. And I've like tried to restore it to how it was for the film.
So this is obviously from Hoth, right? As they're escaping Hoth, and as I know, a lot of the even like things like the ATST was brought in at the last moment. Model shop knew they had to do the walkers, the ATs. A ship like this, there's an interesting analog in the rush to get it done for when they were filming it in 1979, and your rush to get it done.
It's pretty wild.
Here,
they had a much nicer time doing it, I'm sure, because there was no like referencing anything.
Right.
But,
But it's an evolution. The ship is constantly changing.
Yeah, and I talked to some of the builders, like Ease had been a big hand on this, and I was like, how long do you guys think it took to make? They're all like, probably 8 weeks, and I'm like, okay, 8 weeks, 3 years. Those first 2.5 years were kind of like a lot of like groundwork. But yeah, it took a very long time, and the coloration is very.
Oh, I want to talk about that painting.
Yeah.
Geometry-wise, I remember last year you were showing me the 3D print because you're planning to you and your collaborators making this as between yourselves kits, right? So you're designing this. Some pieces you're putting together. Some pieces are stretch building. Some pieces you're 3D printing, 3D modeling. In your mind, what has to be locked in and cemented? Like how do you blend a ship that you're discovering new things about up until 30 days ago with things that you have to commit to making molds and
there were moments where I would break entire sub-assemblies off and realized I'd put it 1/8 of an inch too far forward or back, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when the model is this size, it will creep. The shell, this is a resin shell. The original's, vacuum formed styrene with lots of little pieces. Everything, all the model parts, that's all scratched, donors, like lots of model kits. The cargo pods are resin like the original, and there's these little braces that hold on to the bells. Those were resin, and I think they were resin because those original bulbs were halogen quartz, and so they used like a high temperature resin. So when ILM used resin, we used resin. When they use styrene, we use styrene. I use styrene, except for the shell, the top shell.
You didn't have the cargo crates last year. So I didn't realize, and I'm looking at the reference photo. there's so much dimensionality.
It's so insane.
It's crazy.
And there's like 4 or 5 distinct different cargo containers. Once you start getting into it, there's the sort of signature shaped one.
Yeah.
And then there's one I call the Fig Newton that's like a little lozenge. It looks like a, like it's like a sort of a squarish rectangular little guy.
Right.
And there's like a little round guy. And then there's sort of some ovoid ones. There's a lot of little parts from 1/25th scale trucks, like fuel tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
So
how are they attached? Is there a framework that?
Yeah, it's kind of willy-nilly. There's a lot of plastruct square and rectangular tubing that act as stalks. And if you look in like the original Chronicles book, you can see some of those stalks. But then they just started gluing stuff to each other. So it's like a Jenga 3D chess situation. And
that's where your creep can really happen.
Yeah. And it really, I mean, like, I really understand how it was built, and it's really wild. It's unlike any of the other models, in my opinion, that they built. So yeah, it was pretty gratifying because I had made that whole like section last year.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is the hardest part of the model. No. I mean, like, it was challenging and is like a model in and of itself, but really getting all those containers to go where they're supposed to. And then there's that whole like, hold on to your hats, I hope those 2 little side guys fit. And it was very gratifying and a relief to know that they did. And they served as landmarks. I would lay them down and look at the photos and say, okay, that little chip, has to line up with that container. So that was an excellent sort of registration mark.
Yep. Tell me about the paint and finish, because it's so dimensional, especially with the way that this has been modeled, but there's no like specular lighting on this.
Right. So I mean, it's all pretty shallow detail-wise, considering. They called it the tuna ship. They loved naming things after food. And I think it reminded them of like tuna roll, or whatever. And this is pretty faithful to how it looks to the human eye, like in the archives. There's a lot of salmon colors. There's these blues, little teal. It's very strange, and that was really exciting to me. I've been to the archives. I've sat in front of it, worshiping it or whatever, and it really resonated because it's so unlike the other models. So I did a fair amount of testing and I know if I lay a color, just from years of doing this and color theory in college and whatever, I know how a color will change as you weather. So it was very gratifying to sort of build everything up. And there were a couple of misfires where I had to repaint something. It just looked weird. And then there's also lots of pencil lines. So you will see lots of... you don't notice it at first. And I didn't notice it until I was like painting. And I'm like, oh God, it's covered in pencil. And like, that's gonna be like 2 days with a mechanical pencil. Like, oh Lord. But it really, really sells the design. And if you look at this side, this is the filming side, that's the non-filming side. It's very bare compared to this side.
I love that there's a non-filming side, and you can still see the subtlety of your paint on both sides to have the fully textured out.
And if you look into this trench, you'll see just an absolute ton of detail. If you look in the trench on the other side, there's nothing going on.
Half the work, right?
That was my favorite part, where I was like, we're done.
Wow. Congratulations on the completed Rebel transport.
Yeah, it was.
But not the only ship or vehicle that you made for WonderFest.
Why make it easy?
Can we move on to some of the stuff? Okay. So from a ship to a tank.
Yeah.
Now, you guys love your concept art.
Yes.
And the challenge of turning concept art into a realized model. Tell me about this one.
Okay, so I knew psychologically for myself I needed to have fun. This was fun, but in a different, stressful way. This is something where I just get to play and riff. So I picked a Joe Johnson sketch. There was this hot minute when they were in production thinking, maybe we can take tanks over in Norway and redress them to look like space things, before they decided on the walkers. And so there were a bunch of sketches, study sketches, that were basically skinned tanks, kind of like they did with the Bantha. And I picked the one I liked, and I changed it up a little bit. And then watching Andor, I was like, those blues are great. That little Imperial sigil is fantastic. So the paint job was happening just as Andor Season 2 was wrapping up like a couple weeks ago. And so the color changed on me just because I just really...
New inspiration.
I loved it. Yeah, it was this little last minute oh, all right, that's cool.
So even the insignia, that's of your own design. You kind of finding the right place for it. blending it in.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it's funny too because it kind of looks like a Hiss tank from G.I. Joe. a
little bit.
So I called it the IAHT Imperial Armored Hoth tank, but it also stands for It's a Hiss tank.
Was there a donor vehicle that this was kind of grafted on top of?
It's a radio-controlled 1/16 scale tank, and the only reason I picked that particular tank, it's an M60, is because these, I think they're the bogies, the wheels on the bottom had detail, but a hollow recess that I could then 3D print those hubs to match the drawing. Because a lot of the other ones didn't, it wasn't going to work. So I just wanted to pick a nice tank that, because the tank top goes away, and I'm just putting that on.
But that underneath that chassis is still operational?
Oh yeah,
it's an RC.
It's an RC tank, and little smoke trails out of the back.
Wow.
I made a little exhaust port thing. Yeah. I was tempted to leave the BB. It used to shoot BBs.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's goofy, so I took that out.
Well, obviously the concept sketch is from one side, and unlike the Rebel Transport, this isn't one that you're thinking of as a filming side or non-filming side. You're fully decking out both sides. How do you think about symmetry and how much detail you want to put on each side?
I love the symmetry asymmetry play. So like this gun is like mostly the same mirrored, but then I have different little launchers on the top. This is very asymmetrical in there.
See, you have like your random greebly on one side. Other.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ATST, sort of sole and AT-AT, sort of, the radial lines in the front.
Right.
These armor plates. I made a hatch on the top, and I did a little electric keypad thing. Just little touches that I wanted to sort of hint at what the scale was.
Yeah, you've built enough AT-ATs where there are parts of that build where you might have a favorite part maybe that you like working on. Maybe that's what you want to incorporate.
Yeah. And like I wanted, we all like to showboat and put cool shade into our models. And I was thinking of doing that, and I was like, no, you know what? This time I'm going to go against type and just do some vent, shape.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Oh, that was fun.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
I can't wait to see this actually driving around.
Yeah, it's a very heavy model, but it has a little bit of get up and go. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's move around here. This is not based on a concept sketch, but there was an actual original ship?
There was an actual ship, and it's AWOL. We don't know where it went.
Okay.
We call it the pontoon ship because it has pontoons. You can see it in the fleet at the end of Empire Strikes Back as a fun little blob.
Yeah.
It's in multiple places. And you can also see it in the Japanese Laserdisc, probably for Empire. I don't know what the source was, but it was filmed during production of Empire. And behind Steve Gawley, Steve's working on an AT-AT on the bench, and behind him on the shelf, the model sits. And I'm like, where did you go? Because it's not in the archives.
So it was just, you blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
They're low res,
very low res.
Video quality reference.
Yeah, that's about as good as you're gonna get.
That's it.
That's it.
And from this, you're deriving that.
Yeah. And it was just a fun design exercise.
Yeah.
I liked using pieces that ILM used. I liked sort of using some stuff that they didn't. Yeah, again, like this is just
a little bit of the escape pod.
Let your hair down, have fun. The T strips that are on the Y wing, are there. Other people have built them, and some people use tank treads.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to use something else, but something that they might have used. Yeah.
I love it as a design exercise because you look at this, you walk into this room and I have no idea. Like my brain doesn't connect this with something I've seen on screen.
Knows what it is.
But you know it's Star Wars. It reads as Star Wars.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
Your subconscious picks up on those parts that they use, the shapes, the general shapes, the scale, the paint, obviously.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, so we got 3 Star Wars ships of completely different types of origins and processes. We're gonna wrap up with. Mind if I pick this up?
Not at all.
This is something completely different. Tell me about the Bluthmobile.
I love Arrested Development. I've always loved Arrested Development. I like to challenge myself and make something that's not Star Wars to defy expectation, whatever, however you want to put it. I loved the stair car. I started researching it and realized there's like 4 or 5 distinct stair cars. This is the very first one from the pilot in the first like 3 or 4 episodes. It's the most dilapidated and awful of them all. So I was like, I got to pick the one that's the saddest, the most rickety looking one. There's lots of little Easter eggs. There's some blue paint, like where, a hand would have been.
Right.
Buster's hook is stuck in the dash.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just really, honestly, a lot of fun to then sort of try to find reference on a stair car. And there are still a couple of this era out there. And I have a couple friends that happen to work as aircraft mechanics. And they were like, there's a Ford out there that's not quite this model. And I'm like, oh my God. And so the whole mechanical inside is kind of faithful to how it would be. Like, I went crazy, you know?
Yeah. So is this front, is that cab a donor model kit?
Yes,
okay, that's based on a model kit.
This is a model kit. The tires are from a different model kit. All of this I designed in Rhino and printed. And,
wow.
So, and it literally is built probably close to how they converted a Ford F-150.
Yeah.
And and the grill. I 3D'd the grill so it was, a little more exciting. But
just a little break from Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You got to keep the mind going. And my wife and I enjoy watching Arrested Development again and again and again. So she was tickled that I made something that wasn't an X-wing. Yeah.
Iconic vehicles.
Wow.
No one's tired of X-wings, Jason.
No, I'm gonna make another one soon. It's so
awesome.
sad.
Oh my gosh. Every year you come and you really knock our socks off with the incredible models that you make.
Honored. I try.
Anything else in the works that you're thinking about for next year?
I'm working on a couple X-wings. It's funny. I'm in a moment where I kind of haven't picked the next weird thing to do. I kind of want to make the Pork Chop Express from Big Trouble, another sort of signature vehicle. Which would, again, there would be 5 people here that would lose their minds over it, and that's the kind of stuff I like to make.
Exactly.
Really weird something particularly for this one.
Have them all on the same scale. Have them all on the line.
Yeah, it'll be the same scale. I've got all the donor parts ready. I'm in the design process, and now I'm studying photographs of the Pork Chop Express.
Jason,
such is my life.
A pleasure as always. So great to see you. Thank you so much for welcoming us.
Thank you for coming
into WonderFest.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
All right, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you guys so much for watching that video. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you we have some excellent merch. We have a 5-pack of demerit badges for sale right now at tested/store.com. We've got the I hung it off of level demerit badge, the I built the chair backwards demerit badge, the I hit my thumb with a hammer demerit badge. We've got the stapler in my finger demerit badge, and my favorite, I stuck the duct tape to itself demerit badge. Get yours now, tested/store.store. Tested-store. Tested. It's right here. There. Just click there.